The Gophers off season started off with a bang, and all of a sudden it feels like we might need to start bracing for some negatives. Our defensive coordinator is leaving, some commits could be leaving, but we did get new transfers. We're diving into it all today.
You are Locked On Golden Gophers.
No matter what we're going to do here, we're just going to keep rowing.
Your daily podcast on the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
However it turns out, we're just going to keep rowing.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
We're just going to keep rowing, and keep rowing.
You're listening to Locked On Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Kane Rob, host of the podcast, former collegiate football video coordinator and recruiting assistant, here to talk Golden Gophers with you each and every day of the week, Monday through Friday. Now, last week, we were dropping the ball a little bit. Your boy was feeling a little under the weather with a sinus infection, along with traveling for work. I'm still out of town for work, but had to make sure to get you that quality Gophers content. So be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any future updates moving forward, because we talk Gophers each and every day. And we've got a lot of catching up to do with the basketball teams that have both been hitting stride and getting dubs. The women's basketball team is real deal, and we're going to talk about them a little bit more tomorrow. But I want to talk about football today because there is a lot of things going on in this Gophers football world, including Joe Rossi, the defensive coordinator, no longer with the Gophers. He is heading to another conference rival, Michigan State, for a lateral position, moving to the defensive coordinator position over there. Now, not completely lateral, because this is probably going to come with a big old bonus like Kirk Shiraka saw going to Rutgers, but it doesn't hurt any less. It doesn't change the fact that losing our coordinators to lateral positions within the conference does not feel good. It does not show well for the program, and they're going to have to find a way to address this now. So Joe Rossi is headed out of Dinkytown for a parallel job of sorts on to the Michigan State defensive coordinator. Now, it's not completely parallel, like I said, but on top of that, Michigan State has more resources, and we know that they heavily invest in their sports more than what we've seen historically from the Gophers program. So it's a tough blow, but I don't blame him for taking more money, more opportunity, more areas for him to provide for his family. Now, it's not only a huge blow for our defense, but it's a huge blow for our linebacker room, which has been providing some high-level play in most seasons. Now, on top of that, just because the Gophers had defensive struggles this past year doesn't make this impact any softer for the Gophers. It is a major blow, losing Coach Joe Rossi and his defense. Over the past few years, you're talking about 2021, according to TeamRankings.com, the Gophers had the number 5 scoring defense, the number 6 pass defense, the number 7 rush defense, and the number 2 in total defense in 2021. Again, according to TeamRankings.com. Then you move to 2022, number 3 scoring defense, number 14th pass defense, number 18th rush defense, number 7th total defense. So back-to-back years with a top 20, top 15 level defense with guys that are undervalued. I don't know. You get what I'm saying. Under recruited players, people that are overlooked when it comes to, they might not be a high quality prospect, but then all of a sudden these guys are producing, they're developing, and they're showing out, some of them going on to be NFL level players. So they have gotten the most of their players here in Coach Rossi's system, and it is going to be a tough thing to adjust from. Now, Joe Rossi has been great with the Gophers when it comes to building his scheme around his players and their skill sets. He doesn't get trapped into this is how we do things and you have to do it my way or the highway. No, he takes his best players and he puts them in the right positions and schemes it. So one year we're better at pass defense and more leaning into our secondary and the speed of the defense. Another year, we're leaning into the defensive line and creating opportunities in pass rush and getting home to the quarterback. You're seeing him scheme it to the players and the talent that he has, and that is an undervalued strength for any coach out there. It is something that Gophers fans have probably taken for granted, but we're going to find out one way or another if the Gophers can bounce back from this departure, because it's not just the defensive strategy. It's not just the development of linebackers. It's not just the adjustments that we see to get the Gophers back in the game. It is a huge staple. It is consistency. It is players that have wanted to buy in and play for this defense. And now it's gone. And now you have to figure out a way to keep it going and keep everybody on board and keep everybody ready to lock in and do their best. But it's a tough ask. It's a tough thing to have to maneuver through, and it will be back-to-back years now where the Gophers have lost their top assistant coach on one side of the ball. So, like I said, he was really good at building his scheme around and adjusting it, but this past year it was a little tough in all aspects. The whole entire Gophers defense was hampered by injuries, and it was hard to adjust in this season. But we saw glimpses. We saw flashes. We saw increase in turnovers. We saw increase in sacks. And so they were finding ways to get some sort of production, even through the injuries, even through the adversity. So it's going to be a huge blow to Minnesota. Now, off the cuff, I wouldn't be surprised to see Minnesota hire someone for this position internally. It's something they like to do. So maybe you're looking at a guy like Coach Swag Daddy, Nick Monroe. Maybe you're looking at Danny Collins, who came up with Joe Rossi and has been along with PJ for very, very many years now. But neither one of them has really done the play calling role. You've seen Coach Debo. I don't know if he's going to be a player that they would, or a coach they would elevate right away from jump, because he's still relatively young and new to being a position coach at a Power 5 level. He's just not ready for that responsibility possibly right now. But I think long term, the Gophers would love for him to be a guy who could step up into that category. Maybe if Joe Rossi would have stayed here for 2-3 more years, then maybe that's something where it could have been a more natural transition. But it'll be interesting to see how the Gophers address this opening. Will they hire from within? Will they try to reach out to another familiar face who has been here before as a co-DC in Joe Hare-Simiak, who's over with Rutgers? I don't know. I'm going to probably put together a more in-depth wish list on Wednesday's show, so you'll definitely want to be tuned in for that. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it, and we will dive into defensive coordinator talk on Wednesday's show. Now, there is still more impacts to be felt from this Joe Rossi decision moving to Michigan State, because one of our 2024 commits could be going with him, and we might be losing more than just one 2024 commit. We could have a few on the outs. We're going to jump into some updates on that coming up next. First, I want to talk to you about our friends over at eBay Motors, because passion, drive, and patience is what brings home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether it's speed, power, style, whatever floats your boat, eBay has you covered. And so, with the winter coming through, you got to get your car prepped, because it is almost snow time. We've already felt little dustings here and there, but you know that big one's coming, and you can have your car ready to handle it all with over 122 million parts for your ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you are looking for with eBay Motors. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you want at the prices you want, all the parts you need at the prices you want, you can turn your car into the MVP and bring home that dub. Keep your ride or die alive over at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only for U.S. customers. All right, Gophers fans, let's talk about the Gophers could possibly be losing some commits too. It's not just Joe Rossi. It could be some 2024 commits on their way out as well. And with National Signing Day approaching in less than 10 days, on December 20th, it is officially National Signing Day. Who are we going to be able to keep on hand? Well, Brady Pretzlaff was a player, a linebacker who has gained not only an offer from Michigan State. He is from the state of Michigan, so that's a big one, but also from Michigan. His family was a big Michigan family growing up, so I know that those offers mean something to him. But now you pair the fact of the coach that he's built his relationship with and wanted to play in his system and wanted to be a part of it here at Minnesota, where he committed, is now headed to Michigan State. That's tough. That's tough, knowing that now you can stay in state and still play with that player or that coach who you've built something with. And it's going to be hard to see him not flip to a different school in that one. I would very much think that they are going to have a strong presence in potentially flipping Brady Pretzlaff, and you have every reason and then some to consider it. If you're being honest, you've got the coach, you've got it close to home, possibly bigger NIL presence, plus many departures leaving with that whole staff getting kind of shooken out. So there's maybe opportunity to make an earlier impact. It's hard to blame him. We'll see what happens if he stays committed, but I would most likely probably anticipate he's probably headed back home. Then you flip to another Minnesota commit from Minnesota, Jide Abasiri. Now, look, it seems like you can consider this one long gone, done deal. He's going to USC. USC is said to be one of the ones to beat, if not the school to beat now. He loved his visit out there at USC, and honestly, looking at what he had told some writers out that way, it seems like he made some unnecessary comments when it came to the school that he was committed to, saying there's just a lot more opportunities out here than there is in Minnesota. Now, it's tough to know that, being a 17, 18-year-old kid, not really knowing what opportunities are really at hand for you, what can be developed for you. And, new shiny object always becomes a forefront for these big schools coming in at the last second. But that being said, what I want to say is just, I get that these are kids, but you don't want to unnecessarily burn bridges with somewhere you were possibly going to go prior, especially never knowing how quickly things can change in this new college landscape. I mean, take Drew Vioto by chance. He was committed to Eastern Michigan. He flipped to Minnesota, and now he hit the transfer portal, is going back to Eastern Michigan. But if he would have burned that bridge, if he would have said unnecessary comments, if he would have said, oh, there's not much I can do here at Eastern Michigan compared to Minnesota, maybe Eastern Michigan doesn't take him back when he goes into the transfer portal. That's why you have to keep those relationships cordial as you end them and move on to different ones. Look at Dawson Garcia, who played at two major schools in basketball, Marquette and UNC. Then all of a sudden, due to family health situations, ends up back with Minnesota, which probably wasn't on his future outside outlooks for himself 3 years down the line. But it came to that situation due to things that were unforeseen. So don't burn the bridge with silly comments. That's all I'm trying to say. Now, if Jide wants to go to USC, then you got to respect that. And you know what? Go try it out. Go see what you got to do. But if you end up hitting the portal, you don't want to have a bad relationship or a burned bridge by saying things that you didn't need to say because you liked visiting a different school at that time. Just say you liked visiting that school. Then you go to Coy Parrish, was probably the player I was most worried about heading into talking about these three players visiting other schools, and now feels like the least worrisome, which isn't to say he's staying. That is just how certain I am that those other two are probably departing, which is tough stuff for the Gophers. Hopefully they can make a case for him to stay and be that next big safety, that next big player for this program. You're talking about Antoine Winfield. You're talking about Jordan Howden. You're talking about Tyler Nubin. And then you can add Coy Parrish to that list. Let's make it happen. Hopefully that is the selling point. It seems like it's the social points for a lot of coaches on the Twitter sphere, but we'll see how much that sticks for a guy like Coy Parrish. Now, on top of that, the DBs, the secondary, have been finding success in their own right. Terrell Smith in the NFL. Justin Wally will eventually be in the NFL. Benjamin St. Juste is having success in the NFL. So the Gophers secondary has shown a lot of success and development into the NFL. We definitely could have some more guys entering into that space if they stay committed here. We'll see if he stays as opposed to his Ohio State and Florida State offers, but there are some big shakeups happening for the Gophers. And like I said, official signing day is on December 20th. So we're going to hold our breath, cross our fingers, and everything else up until that point. Now, the final thing that we're going to talk about today is the new additions. There are 4 new additions from the transfer portal headed to the Gophers. We're going to give you a light breakdown of all of those players and a little bit of how they could maybe be used in this Gophers system coming up next. First, I want to talk to you about our friends over at PrizePicks. Now, if you like daily fantasy sports made easy, then PrizePicks is the place to be. You can test your skills on PrizePicks this basketball season with the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Now, me, myself, I like to play the foreplay and try to 10 times my money. It's as simple as pressing more or less on stat projections. And if you get multiples correct, then you can win up to 25 times your money. And also they have reboots, which is huge because when you have a player ejected in the first half, or you have a player that gets injured in that first half, they will get rebooted. So you don't have to worry about it counting against your fantasy stats that day. So go to prizepicks.com/lockedon, use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Again, that's prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use promo code LOCKEDONCollege and get a first time deposit match of up to $100. You put in $100, you get $100 back. That's $200 in your account. 40/40 is 80. You get the math. But regardless, prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege to take advantage today. All right, Gophers fans, let's talk about these new transfer additions. They are rolling in, and hopefully it brings more success to this Gophers team. Now, some things we talked about earlier in this season or in this portal priorities was which positions we could possibly see them go after in the portal. What do they need to prioritize? Now, we said running back, interior defensive lineman, maybe center, and maybe a Sam linebacker. Well, the Gophers addressed a couple of those in the recent portal additions. You've got a new interior defensive lineman in Jordan Gurad. He's from FIU. He was a first-team All-Conference USA player this past season, and he'll likely be in a similar role that what we saw from Kyler Baugh, who was a staple for the Gophers these past 2 seasons. Now, last season, as a sophomore, he had 38 tackles, 21 solo tackles, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. 2 years of eligibility left means he could play a very similar role to what we saw from Kyler Baugh, and he could be a partner in crime, a terrible twosome, the tandem, or what have you with Devin Eastern moving forward. That could be awesome for this Gophers defensive line. My apologies. I am still fighting a little bit of a sinus infection, so hopefully your boy will be good and ready to go here in the next couple of days. But I wanted to make sure to get a show out here for you. Now let's talk about cornerback Ethan Robinson from Bucknell. We mentioned him on last week's show. He's a first-team All-Patriot League player. He can fit that Trayvon Jones type role that we saw from last year. 31 games in his career so far, 154 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 25 pass breakups, 5 interceptions, and 2 forced fumbles. He has been all over the field for Bucknell, and we think that can translate here in Minnesota as well. He has the experience to do it, and he could be a baller, a great leadership veteran in that cornerback room full of young guys that could help step them up in this next season, not put as much pressure on them. But I think he is still going to have to compete for his position. He's going to have to compete for his starting spot because you still got guys like Tyler Bride, Zaquan Bryan, Tariq Watson, all in there ready to get on that starting position and be able to be across from Justin Wally. And I think those guys are going to fight. They're going to scrap. So we'll see what happens in that cornerback room. But I think it's chock full of talent, and they're making it so that way they can address the past defense issues that they saw from this past season. Then you move on to a linebacker transfer coming in, Eddie Tusum. On top of that, he's a JUCO player from Texas, Navarro Academy. He's huge. This dude is 6'4", 240 pounds, second team All-Southwest JUCO Conference, 57 tackles this past season, with 15 tackles for loss, 8 sacks. 8 sacks. That is huge for this Gophers team that needs to continue to build on its pressure and getting home on its pressure. They started the season off well, but they definitely tapered off in the back half, and he is a player that could add to that addition. Now, he'll likely play in that Chris Collins type role where he'll play as an edge rusher, but occasionally could be dropping into coverage. But the positive thing for the Gophers is he has 2 years of eligibility left. Finally, the fourth final transfer that we've gotten committed so far, aside from our quarterback who we've already mentioned, but the 4 that all came on Sunday, the 10th, was Trent Howland, a running back from Indiana. He's a bulldozer running back. He's 6'3", 240 pounds, a mammoth, a behemoth. I don't care what you say. This dude is a tank. And on top of that, he led IU in rush yards last season with 354 as a redshirt sophomore. Now, he's also got multiple years of eligibility left. He could be a cleanup player in the red zone or in short yardage stints. He could be a very complimentary player in this running back room. But again, he will play second fiddle to Darius Taylor, who will be the face of this running back room. So again, I think it's a great pairing. It's a great supplement, a great complementary piece in that running back room, but I don't think he is a guy who is going to be your 3-down workhorse type back. We've already got one of those, and so he is a guy who can spell, especially in short yardage, especially in the red zone, and really create contact and be a bruiser for this Gophers offense. And they're going to want to run the ball. We already know that. And so now they're building that depth back up, knowing that this room has been absolutely torn apart by the portal and the seniors that have graduated. So the Gophers are addressing some weaknesses. I would not be surprised to see them add some more additions from that transfer portal. I do know that they are looking at some quarterbacks in the portal as well. So we'll see if they actually get one of those to commit and be more of a secondary quarterback to Max Brosmer. But it does sound like they're locked on, and Max Brosmer will get the first chance at the ones reps. There's a new guy, Logan Fife, who is from Fresno State. He had backed up Michael Keene in multiple games, or he had stepped up in for him during injuries. So he's a guy that the Gophers have offered. Maybe he's that second quarterback, or maybe there will be someone else as well. We'll keep you posted here at Locked On Golden Gophers. Until then, tomorrow, we're going to talk about a little bit maybe about those quarterback options, but also about the basketball teams and how they are still on a roll moving forward. And the Gophers women's basketball team absolutely showing they're the real deal. You can rank them right now. That's what I've got to say. And we're going to talk about that more tomorrow. Along with Wednesday, we'll talk about defensive coordinator options for the Gophers. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of that content on the daily. This is Kane Rob signing off. Row the boat, Sky Go Gophers. And as always, don't forget to subscribe.